In today's video, I'm going to talk about plagiarism of 3D printable files and 3 methods that I've come up with to provide a layer of protection to stop your creations being stolen. And 2 of them are super sneaky. Let's get started. So recently I got a message through YouTube of a Thingiverse user who asked me politely to change the link of a iPhone holder I had linked in one of my older videos. And I was like, what are you talking about? I linked that, it's on My Mini Factory. And I looked closer into it, and yeah, he was right. The guy on My Mini Factory had re-uploaded his original design. Looking through the My Mini Factory profile, there was many other iPhone docs, which no one would really design. You just design one, wouldn't you? So I did update that link, but it got me thinking, how do you know if someone's telling the truth? And how do you know if someone's directly and blatantly ripped off someone else's work? The concept of protecting 3D printable files, STL files, is one that has become quite a popular topic recently, especially with some court cases that are currently going on. And I thought I'd put forward 3 things that I implement sometimes, not all of them, but 3 things I've come up with to kind of provide a layer of protection to STL files. Now, each of these methods I will show a counter method to remove it, because none of them are perfect. You can definitely get around them, but they do provide a layer of protection. And in the case of 2 of them, they're completely invisible. So unless you know what you're looking for, you won't even know they're in the file. So if it does come to the case where you do need to prove that a digital document is yours, you can just be like, oh hey, look here. Yep, that's my name. So without further ado, let's get into the first method, watermarking. When it comes to protecting 3D files, watermarking is something that's employed quite often. It's something I do on every file that I upload for 3D printing, and it provides that sort of layer of protection that you'd expect with a watermarked image or signed photograph or painting. So in this case, this is part of my Geneva mechanism, and it's got my logo right there on the file. Hit W, you can see it right there. So when you do print this model, you do see the watermark, and it's very clear to anyone who would know about the Makers Muse brand that that's my file. But as I said, these things aren't perfect, and just like a photograph where you can Photoshop it, you can remove watermarks. I can show very quickly here that I can go to Edit and generate face groups, and the file will create these face groups here. Accept, and I can just select with the brush the areas I want to delete. So I want to delete, the part there. Delete the part there, part there, part there. And I can go around and actually completely remove my watermark. Clear selection, fill that hole. And if I hit W, it's like it was never there. So watermarking 3D files is a bit like trying to protect an online photograph with a watermark. You can Photoshop them out, but watermarks are a really good way to discourage blatant rip-offs, where people are just mass uploading something from another website and it's got the watermark on there. It happens to my YouTube videos. They get stolen and uploaded to other video sites, but it's got my watermark there with the intro. So they didn't bother to remove it, and I could easily take it down if I wanted to. It's very clear that it's a blatant rip-off. But what about something a little bit more secretive? This is a part for a model of an Assyrian pin lock, something that I'm working on for a future video, and this has a watermark as well. But if you look at the file, you can't see anything very obvious. That's because it's a hidden watermark. And I don't really think this will get stolen, but this is an example of where you might want to put something in place where people won't be able to look for it and remove it. It's going to be so hard to see that they won't know it's there until such case is you need to prove that the file may be yours. So if I zoom right in here, into this area, zoom, 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 there you go. Probably barely see that there. If I hit W to show the lines, I've got Makers Muse indented there. It's indented by 0.05 millimeters, and with the actual part, this is printed out and you cannot see it. The slicer will completely ignore these triangles. They're too small to print, so they won't be printed on the final part, but they are there in the STL file should you need to prove that it's yours. Now obviously this can be removed as well. If you look carefully through a file, you might be able to find them if you know what you're looking for, and you can remove it similarly to how to remove the 3D watermark from before. And also it doesn't protect the file once it's printed. No one's going to look at this and see that's made from Makers Muse. There isn't a logo on the surface, so it's not going to protect the final product. And this is important because a lot of 3D designers mark their designs not for profit, so you can't basically print it and sell it at a market, even though it often tends to happen. If the logo was printed on it and people were trying to sell it at the market, it would be really obvious, but in this case, it's not. It's more to protect the actual digital file itself. Okay, so now onto the third and most cryptic method of protecting an STL file that I can think of, editing the actual STL file in code. So this is an ASCII STL file. It won't work with binary. You must save your STL as ASCII, and basically it shows how an STL file is made up with all the geometry and the tessellating triangles. Down the bottom here, designed by Makers Muse. I just entered some text to say designed by Makers Muse. You could enter a URL, you could enter your contact details, you can enter anything you like. It won't affect the geometry of the file. And this is the file opened up in Meshmixer. It opens up fine, there's no errors, no one would even know that text is there. But there's a really big downside to doing this. If I was to resave this as an STL file, it's going to lose that text. It's just going to resave, and it's going to resave the triangles as they are, and you will lose that text. Also, the other downside is saving as an ASCII versus a binary STL means the size is huge. So if you're trying to watermark this way, a complicated model like this, for example, STL files can be several, 90 megabytes in size. That's a lot of text that you're going to have to load up in your editor to dump your watermark into the actual code. So it's definitely not perfect, but it might be a method you might want to employ to put your details into a file should you need to fight ownership of it in a certain circumstance. And that's going to do it for this video, guys. 3 methods you can protect your STL files, but I do need to reiterate, once you put something out on the internet, it's pretty much out of your control. You're not going to be able to stop people from stealing your files. It's simply not possible. And as I said, each of these 3 methods does have a countermeasure. You can delete geometry and you can resave and re-encode STL files to remove any sort of hidden text in their actual file. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope you found this video useful and maybe gives you a bit of insight into providing some kind of protection to your files should you need to fight ownership. And let me know in the comments if you think of any other protection methods for STL files. It's a bit like, the race for music protection in the early 2000s. We don't have a method for providing protected STL files. Sure, you might password protect a zip folder, but then once you unprotect it, you can just get the STL files out and distribute them normally. There's no established method for protecting geometry files yet, that I know of anyway. Again, let me know in the description if you know of any. And if you enjoyed this video here on Makers Muse, guys, want to see future 3D printing tips, tricks, and reviews, smash the subscribe button, helps us out a huge amount. Look forward to seeing you again very shortly. Catch you later, guys. Bye.
It is the latter half of the 20th century, and man has sent rockets into deep space. He has placed satellites into orbit.